Hi, hey, hi, it's me, your Void, and this is going to be the quickest wrap up I have ever done. Why is this going to be the quickest wrap up I've ever done when I have read the most books ever in a single month? Because I vlogged the entire thing and I gave my thoughts on all of the books that I read in those vlogs, so I'm not going to repeat myself. I will just throw some random stats at you for this one. I have another handy dandy spreadsheet right here to tell you what I read for the Adventurerathon and Summerween, but my Summerween readathon was completely encapsulated in my Adventurerathon reading, so I did not necessarily run two different readathons. I ran one big one and a small one just happened to fit in there. I will present these books not in the order I read them in, I will present them in the order I put them down for the prompts because I just copied my Adventurerathon planning spreadsheet and then deleted all of the books that I didn't read, which was I think just 3 or something. I read so many books. Long story short, July was my best reading month ever. Since I started reading, I have never done this well in any month. Also, I apologize if you can hear the slurping. I don't know if it's loud enough, but I gave my puppy a lick ball. It's a ball and there's some frozen yogurt in it and he has to lick it to get there, and at a certain point it just makes very weird noises. So let's start with the one that will make the most amount of people happy, which is one. I read Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young and I loved it. It was a really good romance book. I believe I gave this 4 stars. I don't have the star ratings in my spreadsheets, I just realized, which is an oversight on my end, but I think I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It's a contemporary romance. It was a nice read. Featuring 2 people with different limb differences. That's a sentence I just said. And they have a one-night stand, they accidentally get pregnant, and then they decide we are doing this together, and over the course of the pregnancy they fall in love. I read Someone You Can Build a Nest In by John Wiswell, which is more or less a monster romance. The puppy is done licking his ball. In this one we follow Shishashin? Question mark? And Shishashin is a slime shapeshifter creature and she is disturbed by some humans and then shit happens and she falls in love with a human. I enjoyed this one as well. I gave this 3.5 of 4 stars, somewhere along those lines. I also read The Sworn Sword and The Mystery Knight by George R.R. Martin, which is the second and the third Dunk and Egg novella. And if you know me, then you know at this point that I am deeply, deeply in love with anything that is a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms related. And I love it. I loved it. I loved it. I gave The Sworn Sword 4 stars and I gave The Mystery Knight 5 stars because yes. Yes. And no, I did not rewatch the show, but I might. I also continued the Burning Blade and Silver Eye series by Django Wexler with reading Blood of the Chosen by Django Wexler, in which we follow siblings on different sides of a government. One wants to destroy them, the other one is actively working for them. I do think this might be a case of second book syndrome. I have not read the third book yet, so I can't tell if it's just a steady decline of the series or if the second book is just the most boring one in the series. But there might be some second book syndrome going on. I gave this 3 stars. Napkins and Other Distractions by M.A. Wardell is the third book in the Teachers in Love series, and I fell in love alongside these teachers. This is the story of 2 men over the age of 40 falling in love with each other. One is an absolute chaos gremlin because gravity and the space-time continuum doesn't like him for some reason. And the other one has clinical OCD, and they somehow, after a date, figure out, hey, we might want to do this long term, and they fall in love, and I love this one so much. This was a 4-star read for me. I also read Every Heart a Doorway and Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shannon Maguire, which are the first and the second book in the Wayward Children series, which is a series of novellas following children who were abducted or traveled to different magical worlds, and now they came back to our world and have to cope. They have to learn how to cope with the fact that they were in this fantastical space and now they are in the mundane, boring Real world. In the first one, we have a little murder mystery going on that is then solved over the course of this novella, and in the second one we follow two kids that we meet in the first novella, and we see where they went, their world, and why they had to come back. I gave the first installment 3 stars and the second installment 4 stars. One of my submarine reads was A Bone in His Teeth by Kellen Graves, which is a lighthouse keeper falling in love with a mermaid siren situation, and there's also a disappearing plot and a kidnapping plot and technically a murder plot, and there are some horror elements. There's a lot going on in this book, but it is a good read. Once you get over the setup is kind of slow, but once you get over that, the book is actually really good, and I gave that 3.5 stars. The one and only book in German that I read was Tricked by Kevin Hearn, which is the 4th book in the Iron Druid Chronicles. I read the first 3 for a different installment of the Adventurerathon, and now I continued with book 4. In this one, technically, this is supposed to be a story about the main character helping out a trickster god after the trickster god does something for him, you know, one hand washes the other. In actuality, you get that plot set up, then Act 2 is some vampire shenanigans for some reason, and then Act 3 is going back to helping the trickster god, which made the story kind of disjointed, and I only gave this 2.5 stars. Then I read Bridge of Souls by V.E. Schwab, rounding out a series. Look at me, finishing stuff. In this one, we follow a girl who, after a near-death experience, can see ghosts, and now she is traveling with her parents. Her parents have a ghost hunting show, kind of, and they travel the world, and she joins them, and she can actually see ghosts, and she helps them to move on. But in this 3rd installment, death is coming for her because she was supposed to die. And to quote Final Destination for this middle grade book, death has a list, and everyone on that list is going to die at some point. Another read for my Summerween shenanigans was Swallowed by Max Smitherman, which is a plant horror in space, but also there is a lot of shagging going on. In this one, we follow 3 people who traveled to a planet that may or may not be the last hope for mankind because we fucked our own planet. I mean, have you looked outside? And these 3 are supposed to survey if we can live on that planet. But strange things start happening once they are there, starting with everyone feeling a bit frisky, and we go from there. It is a horror novel, so you can expect certain things to happen from that. I gave this one 3.5 stars. Then I read, and you have to bear with me on this one, Space Raptor Butt Invasion by Chuck Dingle. And the title is what you get. We follow a guy who is posted on a planet all alone for a year, but turns out he isn't quite as alone because there is a raptor on the planet as well, who is there for the same reasons. Was put there to just chill out for a year and have an eye on the terraforming. They decide to be alone together, and, well, I leave it to you how you want to interpret the words butt invasion. Just remember, it ain't gay if one of you is a dinosaur. Little less weird was What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher, which is the 2nd book in the Sworn Soldier series? Is that the name of the series? I think that's the name of the series, right? And apparently, counter to popular belief, I liked the 2nd volume more than the first one. I liked What Feasts at Night more than What Moves the Dead. Apparently I'm the only one. I don't know. But in this one, we follow our main character, the Sworn Soldier, as they make their way back home, and then weird things happen there as a folk myth turns out to be a bit realer than originally suspected. I returned to a personal favorite of mine, by reading Ensnared by the Werewolf by Lillian Lark, which is a technically kind of companion novella to another novella she wrote. It is part of the Love Bathhouse series, and in this one we follow a lady and a wolf guy. That wolf guy says he is cursed. He is stuck between being human and being wolf, and she's working on it, and then shit happens, and they fall in love. It was a very short novella, but I loved it. I gave this one 4 stars. Yay. Oh, I also gave Space Raptor Butt Invasion 3.5 stars, and What Feasts at Night 3.5 stars. Then I read the audiobook for One Dark Window, which is a reread for me. and I liked it better the first time around, gotta say. This one is basically a gotta get them all card game fantasy. The plot is to collect an entire set of, I think, 12 magical cards so they can lift a curse that keeps the people trapped in this city, town, land, question mark? And the side plot, or what I think should have been the side plot, is a romance between two of the main characters. But after the 50% mark, this romance for some reason takes center stage, even though I think we should have focused on the card plot. I gave this 3.5 stars. Another read where I will not take any questions or comments on is Bigfoot Sommelier Butt Tasting by Chuck Tingle. Again, you get what the title promises. You get a Bigfoot who is a sommelier and he meets a guy, or rather the guy meets the Bigfoot sommelier, and the Bigfoot decides, I want to taste your butt. And that is what they do. I gave that 3 stars. I like the Space Raptor ones better. I also reread A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, and this one as well. I liked it more the first time around because I was more in the weird age range, somewhere between YA and NA. Because even though the entire plot and the things that happen and themes discussed are more for a adult-ish audience, the characters read very young. The books itself reads very much in the vein of an older YA. But I still enjoyed my time with it. I gave it 3.5 stars, and I'm happy to move on with this and finally read the last 100 pages I've been sitting on for 6 years. Oops. I also continued the Mindfuck series by St. Abbey by reading All the Lies, and for that one I was so excited when things happened in that one. But the Mindfuck series is about a lady who is a serial killer who is working on this giant plan of revenge because something happened in her past, and she falls in love with an FBI agent who is tasked with finding her. And they kind of have to dance around each other in this whole situation. And things happened in this 4th installment, and I gave it 4 stars. Another Summerween shenanigan is Walking Practice by Joel K. Min. I was not too big of a fan of it. This is a very artsy read in which we follow a alien that has to force itself into human shape so it can hunt down. It does online dating to shag people and then eat them, and we just follow their life. It's a very artsy read. It's a very cerebral read. It's a good read, but it's a read you have to be in a mood for. I gave that 3 stars. And then I read Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Basterica? I probably butchered that name, but I tried. And that one was a semi-viral sensation, I guess, on BookTube a couple of years ago. And this is about cannibalism. It is about government-sanctioned cannibalism because something infected all animal life, and now mankind has eradicated all animal life, and now we are breeding humans for consumption. And we follow a guy who is part of the system, and we're introduced to this entire thing. It is more of a thought experiment, if you ask me, and I think the book was overhyped. It is the first foray of cannibalism into mainstream media. I think that is what made it so big in the first place, because quite honestly, it is not that interesting in my humble opinion as someone who reads a lot of cannibalism stories. I gave that 2.5 stars because I could not get over the fact that the entire environment did not collapse under the missing animals thing. Like, there are no more animals on the planet, and you are telling me our environment is perfectly fine. I continued another series by reading Limited Liability by Trisha Owens, which is the story of a country bumpkin boy who desperately wants to be an FBI agent, who now works for a man who has a very famous security firm, and they are now working together, but they also have a private arrangement that is a dom-sub relationship, and they have to figure out their personal lives around all of that. I like that one. I gave that 4 stars. The most confusing read of my month was A Trip to the Head by Ursula K. Le Guin, because I have absolutely no idea what this is about. I would give you a summary, but I don't know what happened. This is 20 pages of nonsense, and I did not understand it. It's art? Question mark? I gave that 1 star. The one DNF I had this month was The City of Others by Jared Poon, because I was bored out of my mind. It's an urban fantasy where we follow a guy who works for the government and has a teeny tiny bureau that is supposed to take care of all of the supernatural, magical, paranormal things in the city. And yeah, the concept sounds fun, but the fact that we zoom in on all of the bureaucracy makes it about as interesting as going through bureaucracy. And I say that as a German. We love our bureaucracy and paperwork. But no, no thank you. No thank you. I was just bored. I didn't vibe with the characters. It was just so I DNF'd it. Those were all the books and short stories and novellas I read, but I also read a bunch of mangas and comics, so let's dive into that, shall we? I read the first 4 volumes of Fire Force by Atsushi Okubo. The first 3 were a reread for me, but volume 4 is a first-time read for me, and I love Fire Force. I still think it's doing better as an anime because of the way this manga works. It's a very dynamic thing, it's a very action-packed thing, and it's based around fires and fire soldiers, because in this world people burst into flames spontaneously, and the fire soldiers are tasked with taking these monsters out that come from this spontaneously bursting into fire. And we follow a firehouse that is tasked with A, keeping people safe from these monsters, B, taking out those monsters, and C, they are tasked with investigating the other firehouses to find out, hey, where does this event come from and how can we stop it from happening again? I am a huge fan of Soul Eater, and Fire Force is a confirmed prequel to Soul Eater, and I love Fire Force. I gave the first volume 3.5 stars, the second volume got 4 stars, the third volume got 4 stars, and the fourth one got 4.5 stars. If I remember all of that correctly, don't quote me on that. Just know that I love Fire Force. I also read volumes 3 and 4 of Yankees, which is a story where we follow a bunch of cats, but they think they are people. So we just see street gang shenanigans, but with cats as protagonists. That was fun. I gave the third volume, I think I gave that 3 stars, and the fourth volume got 3.5 stars. Then I also read 2 Christmas comics because Kirsty decided we have a Christmas in July prompt. I will not let her have that in peace. For that one, I read 2 Klaus comics by Grant Morrison, the first one being Klaus and the Crisis in Xmasville, which is Santa Claus versus capitalism and aliens, and the other one was Klaus and the Crying Snowman, which is Klaus and a snowman fight aliens that originally caused Ragnarok, and also we have to turn back time. That is literally the story of those 2 comics. I gave The Crisis in Xmasville 3 stars, and The Crying Snowman got 3.5 stars for me. Then I tried something new. I specifically looked for the weirdest snake-related comic/manga, and I found The Great Snake's Bride by, I forgot the author, let me check, Fushiyashi Kumo, probably butchered that as well, in which we follow a lady and she is sacrificed by her village to what they believe is a snake god on top of a mountain. But when she gets there, she realizes it's just a big old snake who's old enough to be that big and who can talk, and he just wants to have a wife. And she's a bit weirded out by the whole thing, but eventually they grow to like each other and they become husband and wife. And we just follow them in their life on top of that mountain, as weird as it is. Then I read for Summerween House of Slaughter Volume 6, Azur, the blue one, in which we are told what a blue mask does, which was originally being the Forge Master and equipping the monster hunters with whatever weapon they need to defeat the monster they are currently facing. In modern times, this is more of checking the internet, keeping information where it should be, gathering information, sending people where people were supposed to be sent. It's the entire information brokering behind the scenes, and we are introduced to that concept, but we also solve a plot that has been going on throughout all of the House of Slaughter volumes, and in the end everything is hunky-dory, because of course it is hunky-dory in a world full of imaginary monsters. Nothing bad ever happens. I gave that 4.5 stars because I loved it. I also read Book of Kata, which is the third. I think they are just anniversary editions, but in this one we get the entire backstory of, okay, where does this house, the houses come from, how were they founded in America. It's basically the history of the houses in Something is Killing the Children, and a wee bit of story. This is mostly a info dump about the history of The Houses and the Order of St. George. And I love that one as well because I love me some world building, and I gave that 4 stars as well. Can't help being me. And that is, I believe, all that I read that month. I think I went through the entire list. I might have skipped one or two, I don't know, but I think I got everything. In total, I did some stats for this, like, whoa, I needed to know, I needed to know. In total, I have read 7,156 pages throughout the month of July. I read 11 books, 10 novellas, 8 mangas, 4 comics, and 3 short stories. All of that was comprised in 10 physical books, 24 ebooks, 2 audiobooks. I owned 27 of them, and I borrowed 9. Of all of these books I read 9 continuations. That's good. I finished 2 series. I started 3 series. But keep in mind, for these stats, I do count the comics and mangas, and I don't count them for my goal of finishing series or catching up with series. That is only for books. So this has nothing to do with my series slasher goals, for example. 4 of these reads were for different projects I have. In fact, One Dark Window and A Darker Shade of Magic are setting up books for my 12 and 12 to read. A Darker Shade of Magic was in my 12 and 12 to read. I want to read the entire series this year. And a One Dark Window is also a 12 and 12 book, and I want to read the second one, which is also both book 2 of One Dark Window and A Darker Shade of Magic are also on my r/fantasy bingo board, and A Trip to the Head and City of Others are also on my r/fantasy bingo. However, since I DNF'd City of Others, I do have to find another book for that prompt because, as I said, I only had that one DNF. So yeah, that was my July. Like, holy shit. If you want deeper thoughts on any of these books, check out my Adventurerathon and Summerween vlogs. I will link them somewhere, I'm sure. But yeah, holy shit. I'm never going to do that again. I already told Kirsty if she ever has the brilliant idea of doing 34 prompts ever again, she can do that on her own. I'm out, I'm taking a vacation, I go on strike for that one. But yeah, if you made it to the end of this video, let me know in the comments how your July went overall. What was your best book you read in July? My puppy is currently losing his mind! But yeah, let me know what your best read was in July, and if you don't want to talk to me at all, leave a book stack emoji in the comments below, because I cannot think of a different emoji that fits the madness of my July. And yeah, I guess I will see you in the next video. Bye!